Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Easy Weezy here with a new video. We are going to be talking about Bitcoin futures. Now, Bitcoin futures launches in about 3 hours total time, and I've been watching a couple other YouTube videos on how they sort of explain Bitcoin futures and whatnot. Most of them are pretty on top of it, but there are just some that completely demolish uh, the actual structure of futures and sort of the terminology that they use. So I just kind of wanted to clear up the air, so to speak, on how Bitcoin futures will sort of play out. The ticker symbol on the CBOE, which is the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, um, their symbol is XBT, which will include a slash. The slash represents a futures contract. So most of the people don't even know what futures are. I'm just going to explain it really quick. Basically, how it works is I'm going to buy or sell short, which is betting against, going long, which is in the buy side. So if it goes up, I'll make money. Shorting, if it goes down, I'll make money. Though if I short and it goes up, I'm going to lose money. You could research the terminology on your own time, but this is sort of just a really quick video, and I want to get down to Bitcoin futures itself. So back to the futures perspective. Um, Say I have wheat, okay, or actually say I have 1,000 cans of Diet Coke, and I want to purchase a contract. Well, that's going to give me a certain percentage of basically sort of a percentage of that Diet Coke cans, which will represent the margin requirement, and as well as sort of how much I will own. Well, not forget the how much I'll own, but it's basically a percentage of the price, which will basically give you the margin requirement. And if you guys do not know what the margin requirement is, you have to put a certain amount down, which is like a deposit. So, like, let's say I have 25 or $3,000 in my account. I could basically trade almost a lot of futures products like oil, Brent, as well as no, I can't trade gold, but basically all of the currency futures. I might be able to trade maybe some index futures, depending on the margin requirements, but um, that that right there covers the margin requirement. But back over to the futures perspective, I will buy a futures contract speculating or using technical fundamental analysis, or however you think that the price will go. So I'll buy a contract, it'll then get inputted into the CME or whatever exchange it goes through, and then after that, my order is filled, and if it goes up, I will make money. If it goes down, I will lose money. Now, at the end of the month, which is when the contract expires, so there are contract months: January, February, March, April, you name it. Mostly all the months. And when it expires at that date, it will be cash settled. So you could research cash settlement. It's not going to be like a physical Bitcoin. Basically, they'll just debit it on what the price is of that Bitcoin at the end of the month. So, like, let's say Bitcoin is at 18,000. Now, remember, I'm buying a percentage of that bundle. I'm buying a percentage of the Diet Coke cans. So, basically, when the contract ends, I have to buy the whole 1,000 cans. You could basically look up physical settlements for oil. You buy one contract of oil, which is equal to, I think it's like 30,000 barrels of oil. I might be off on that, but you'll get how much ever the contract is worth, which in Bitcoin, it's worth 1 Bitcoin. So you could sort of see the margin requirement is that sort of percentage of how much you will own of that Bitcoin. And that's probably the easiest way that really anybody can explain it to you. I know some people have been saying, oh, it depends on the volatility, or it depends on this. I don't see that. In reality, I would do your own research. Look at what other people are saying about it. Now, how will Bitcoin play out? So from what I can see here, they really haven't put up the contract specs at all. We have the buy and sell. The bid is 8250, and the offer is 8200. So there's practically a $50 or 50 handle spread on Bitcoin futures at the moment. There is no trading. I don't even see. There's no bids. There's no ask. Absolutely nothing. So nobody's willing to buy because it's not even open yet. I know a lot of brokerages are not going to be supporting it yet. One of them is, I think, TD Ameritrade, which I'm just going to be using a different brokerage because I want to trade it as soon as it comes out. I know TD Ameritrade, I know some other retail places are not going to be allowing it yet. And the reason for that being is because of liquidity, and they want to make sure that there is enough liquidity within Bitcoin so it doesn't really, move the spreads, or it doesn't move the price in a really weird function. Now, if we look here about a year ago, I think it is, back when the Russell, or the Russell Mini, the E-mini Russell 2000 Index futures came out, there was really low liquidity, but it was tradable, and so to speak. Whenever a new product gets introduced, most brokerages will either release it on the day and let you trade it, or they will wait a week or two before you can actually trade it because they want liquidity. Now, in case you guys do not know what liquidity is, it is simply the amount of buy orders and sell orders. So if we look at oil, for instance, you will see this sort of stream of sell orders and buy orders. This right here is pretty healthy. They're kind of spread out here, which makes spreads, okay? You go from 28 all the way to 36, which you can see here. So there's less liquidity, probably because it's not being traded at the moment and none of the markets are open. Futures, of course. And so what the brokerages will do is see how liquidity plays out and whether it's a good bet, or they may not even, support it. So that might be a little bit of a downturn. Now, Bitcoin futures will launch at the CME, which is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, on December 18th, which is next Sunday. So there is a little bit of a gap. The CBOE, Chicago Board of Options Exchange, beat the CME to it. They're the first ones that are going to be releasing it. I think that liquidity, in my opinion, will be somewhat low, mostly because nobody knows what is going to happen with Bitcoin futures and how they will play out on a day-to-day market. Regulation for Bitcoin futures is going to be how it's always been for every single currency. If it drops, 2 or 3 or 4%, whatever their circuit breakers are at, they are going to halt trading. Now, Bitcoin tends to drop below, it tends to drop 11%, so therefore they would put a halt, which that sort of makes things a little bit unease for some financial institutions and whatnot. And I think this also, with the halting of the trading, it also might make it a sort of not the most reliable thing to trade. I mean, if Bitcoin drops 4% every time some bad thing happens to it, it's going to keep on getting halted for 30 minutes, and it's going to reopen, and it's going to go back up, and then it's going to drop another 4%, and then it's going to get halted again. I would have to do I would have to do a little bit more research into figuring out how this would play out, but so far it's on track to go and whatnot. And just one last thing that I would like to say here is I think there may even become a derivatives market for Bitcoin futures. Well, there already is. And with this derivatives market, with the options, I think there's going to be a lot of less liquidity in it. If you look at really S&P 500 future options, Euro, wheat, treasuries, there's a lot of less liquidity in those options than there are with equity options. So that right there also kind of really defeats the purpose. I mean, if it spikes up and Bitcoin rallies and you're in the long side on a futures options contract, it would play in your favor, but it could be a little less ease. And that's all I really have to say about Bitcoin futures and how they will play out and what exactly they are. They open up in about 2 hours and 40 minutes. I might even do another video with me actually trading it and whatnot, which is going to be just flat out fantastic. So that's all I have to say, and peace out.